Hi, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are recreating 2 Sim Lane from the original Sims game, which has since been kind of known as Sims 1 because it was the first one that came out, and I'm reading apparently it came out almost 25 years ago. So it remains to be seen if EA is going to do something in celebration of the 25th anniversary of the Sims franchise. Personally, I think that would be super cool because I did play the original game when it was out, but I know a lot of people are probably watching this build and thinking it looks a little ridiculous, but I promise you, this was how we built in the original Sims. All the windows separated by a single tile, that was the height of luxury. I decided it would be fun to try to recreate some of those original homes from The Sims 1. So I did this one without using the base game, and when I started doing the build, I wasn't sure what packs I was going to use, but a little ways in, especially once I realized I can do the windows using base game only packs, I turned off the other packs and thought, okay, this is going to be base game only. I did end up adding a couple features that exist in The Sims 4, but not in the original Sims. So the balconettes are something new that I added to try to make it have a little bit more curb appeal. And I also did more modern roofing. I did play around with the roof off camera a little bit, and I ended up going back to what you see here. And I wouldn't normally use stone on the outside of a house in a build and then use a brown or a red roof. But that is how it looks in the original, so I'm trying to stay true to that while also making things a little bit different where I see fit. So there is a tiny bit of creative license in this, but I think overall it is an homage to the original build. And I tried to leave the floor plan inside similar as well. I ended up adding a second bathroom on the second floor because I don't like having one main bathroom for all the Sims to use. I think it's just difficult to play like that. And I also don't like, in the original Sims, a lot of the bathrooms would be accessible from 2 different doors going to 2 different rooms. And if you are using the bathroom, that kind of doesn't make sense because then you have to lock all the doors to make sure you aren't interrupted and someone could come through at any time. I don't know. It just isn't the way that I like to build bathrooms. So I changed it and I put more of a primary suite on the second floor and then a different bathroom. But I did try to leave all of the floorings and things like that to be similar to the original Sims. So there is that garish blue carpeting that we just loved to use. That is all over. So if you do download the build, of course, you can play around with and change anything that you want, especially since it's base game only. You might have other things that you'd like to do in your game that are CC or in different packs. But if you want to play around with it and see if you can create something beautiful using the original bones of it, I think that would be a really fun challenge. I think my room in the back, which is the kitchen, I believe, on the first floor, and a bedroom on the second floor, is also a little bit smaller than the original 2 Sim Lane, but I just worked it out that way to fit nicely on the lot. And I think when we used to build kitchens in the original Sims, for whatever reason, we would have 30 counters or something like that, but it isn't really necessary in your game, and I think it kind of crowds it up. So that might be a little bit shorter, but I put kind of a little outdoor space with these columns in the back to make up for that space. I think I'm going to try to recreate a lot of the original Sims builds in The Sims 4. This is in Newcrest, so I think it would be a fun little project to recreate the Newcrest in my save file using these old builds or recreations of them. I would like to stay using base game only for as much as possible, but I think there are some builds, if you're going to do community lots, that would kind of have to use the packs because, unfortunately, The Sims is set up in such a way that if you want to put a restaurant or something like that, I'm pretty sure you have to use a pack. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I do take some creative liberties with the landscaping here, but I will explain them. I did use classic hedges because in the original Sims, the hedges were how you landscaped. You would have a short hedge in front of a tall window and a tall hedge in front of a short window, and that is how we did it. But there were also flowers that would grow on tiles directly out of the ground. So I tried to use, I think these are the assorted wildflowers or something like that, just growing directly out of the dirt to mimic those old original flowers. But I did landscape a little bit differently. If you pull up the images of 2 Sim Lane on the Sims Wiki, you can see the tiles aren't random, but they're just kind of by that front drive or sidewalk, if you want to call it that. And I decided to do them around the edges of the home to give it a little bit more personality. I think this would be a decent home for a Sim who has the mansion baron aspiration. I think that's the one I'm thinking of, where there's a part of it where they want something like 30 windows and 20 columns on their home. I'm not exactly sure, but this has a lot of windows. I didn't count them, but probably getting up there. And it does have some columns, and I think you could easily put columns inside the home, especially to separate out some of those rooms if you were going to take up the challenge of trying to adhere to the original floor plan. I also don't think in a real construction that a home like this would stay up. I think you would need more load-bearing walls on the ground floor, but I'm not any kind of architect or engineer or something like that, so what do I know? I'm just imagining. You can see here I also moved the staircase around, and the reason for that is I set the ground floor to be medium height walls and the second floor to be short walls. So I think that you could change them. You might have to change some of the archways, but I think the windows would fit in a short wall build. I just thought having medium on the ground floor and short on the second floor gave the home a little bit more personality. And I didn't think moving the stairs like this was a huge deal because it's only kind of one extra tile in the foyer, if that makes sense. And I thought it kind of divides it up nicely where there's like a front foyer area and then a back area that goes to the back door and the kitchen and bathroom. It just kind of made sense, but could easily be changed. I actually really like this tree in the middle of the pool that is part of the original build. I think it might be a willow. I can't really see from the images. It's teeny tiny in the original build, so I scaled down the base game willow tree in this one. But having that little green space in the pool, I don't know, I think it looks so sweet. I'm surprised I don't do that more or see that more because it is a little bit luxurious in what I see as like almost a 2000s mansion. A lot of this build is really just landscaping, especially since it's base game. I'm just trying to blend the house in a little bit more with The Sims 4 because especially with all those windows, it just took some thinking to make it look a little bit more congruent with the game. But I do like how the backyard space turned out, and I also like those balconies. I don't think I knew anyone growing up who had a single family home with second story outdoor balconies on it, but if I had, I would have thought, wow, there are certain things in the original Sims that are indicia that someone has used the rosebud sheet, and outdoor balconies, I think, are some of them, as well as big TVs, because when the original Sims came out 25 years ago, if you had a big plasma screen TV in your house, again, that was wow. We didn't have anything like that in my house. Our TV was shaped like a cube, like a big box. I feel like I'm aging myself here, and I am not that old, but I did play the original Sims, not when it came out, but I believe before The Sims 2 came out, just a little bit before them. I used to go over to my cousin's house, and we would play The Sims, and we had so much fun together. It's such a nice, nostalgic thing. So I hope that you enjoy this build. I hope to be back with more, and thank you so much for watching. There are a few screenshots at the end.